Hello and welcome back to Burning Questions. My name is Mbali, and today, guys, I have an amazing guest, Dumo Denga, who is the host of the ManPatria podcast. Dumo, hi, and welcome to Burning Questions.
Hi, Mbali. Thanks for bringing me on today. It is a pleasure.
Definitely. Let's get into it. So today, Dumo, we're talking all things BEE, all things employment equity and affirmative action. So in this podcast, we get questions from our viewers, and this week's question is: doesn't BEE, EEE, AA, and quotas make a mockery of our so-called democracy? So Dumo, I think you can fire away.
Yes, that's a very good question. I think it does make a mockery of our democracy. I think, given South Africa's past, yes, there were laws in South Africa that did actually put certain races on the back foot and favored other races. And, now that we're in a democratic South Africa, I don't think it is necessary for BEE or AA or whatever EE or AA quotas to exist. Number one, the reason why I don't think that is the case is because there are far better ways to actually improve the livelihoods of South Africans in general. I think that there are a lot of issues that the government can be solving without actually using EE or AA. Now, I think also, let's say a company does want to implement EE or AA, the company should do that at their own costs. I don't think that the government should force companies to do something of that nature if they're not comfortable doing it. And, the reality is that if you look at our unemployment is not looking good. Not that it ever does, but I mean, it's not looking good right now. GDP is going up, but the reality is that the livelihood of South Africans is not in a good state. That's irrespective of skin color, and EE and AA is not solving those problems.
Duma, would you like maybe to expand what EE and AA are actually? Because there is maybe someone at home who actually doesn't know what these two things are. They might be familiar with what BEE is, but EE and AA aren't really things that we usually talk about.
Yes. Oh, okay. I would like to explain this. So, EE is employment equity. So, this is an act that the government has actually put in place that tells companies, like the structure of their companies, how they should look in terms of demographic representation. And then AA, on the other hand, is just this general action of trying to like have this sense of racial equality. So, for example, one would say that EE is an example of AA and BEE is an example of AA. That's how it is.
Okay. All right. So all these three things are basically intertwined.
Yes. Definitely
Definitely.
intertwined.
Definitely. So now maybe if we do say, like, if we can name things as to how exactly does it mock the so-called democracy? What are the things maybe that you can pinpoint? I think I'm interested in in employment equity rather, as to what exactly would we say it does that this person ends up asking a question of it's mocking our democracy.
Right. Yes. How it mocks our democracy is that when you look at it, South Africa is not only, it doesn't consist of one race. There are many different people from many different races and many different cultures. And
Yes.
what we're doing is we basically are insulting the skills that we have in this country. We are actually saying that if you are of a particular skin color, therefore, you need to be pushed ahead of the line just because of your skin color. You could be very skilled. You could have the necessary skills and the requirements for the job or for the opportunity, but because of your skin color, you'll be denied of it or you'll be pushed ahead of the queue, which I think for me is an absolute mockery because there are many skilled people in this country that can take advantage of opportunities that could actually better themselves and other people. It doesn't have to be themselves, but maybe the projects that they're going to embark on will make life easier for other people. But now that will be denied just because they have the wrong skin color. And then you're going to get a brain drain. A lot of people are going to leave the country as a result of that. They're going to go to other countries where their skills are going to be valued. And therefore, we're going to be losing important skills that could be helping the country improve. But that's going to go now because another country can see, hey, these guys here, they're not being appreciated because of their skin color or so forth. Let's take them. They can help improve our country. That's where we lose, because now that skill transfer, that succession planning becomes even it becomes disjointed now, because now you
Yeah.
got people who are not prepared, who don't have experience, now embarking on really important projects, and they're bound to make mistakes
Of
that are
course.
due to ignorance. And if the right people were there to actually guide them, then those mistakes would not be made.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very, very true. I think I kind of hear most analysts who say BEE should be scraped. Do you also think that BEE should be scraped? And if so, what can we then replace BEE with? Because some people
Oh,
would say
okay.
definitely let's scrape it, but we need something to replace it with.
Right. Okay. Okay. So I think it should be scrapped. Because I think it's unnecessary. Right. But there are two options. Number one, you just you leave things as they are, or what you can do
Okay.
is you can look at the current laws other than BEE that are actually holding back people. So, for example, let's say we put out the fire of BEE.
Okay.
Then what are we going to do? Okay. So if we do nothing, you know, there might be some negative sentiment and say, well, there has to be something. And maybe there is something that can be done. So, like, for example, the minimum wage. I mean, the minimum wage, in my opinion, also needs to be scrapped along with BEE, because if you
Yeah.
scrap BEE, we need to make it easier for people to get a job. You find that what BEE does, and inadvertently and unintentionally so, it actually makes it harder for black people to get a job, because a lot of
Yeah.
black people who are young, they don't have the experience to
Yeah.
earn a wage that justifies the minimum wage, especially from a small business owner perspective. And as a result of that, they cannot actually get a job, and they keep them out. So I do believe that, number one, the minimum wage needs to be scrapped, or at least someone should be allowed to say, listen, I don't want the minimum wage to apply to me. I want to be exempt from the minimum wage. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Then the second thing is we need to ensure that private property rights are protected. As you know, that the
Yeah.
ANC and EFF or other parties, they want to make it, they want to expropriate property without compensation. I do
Yeah.
think that we need to have a strong protection of private property rights in that sense, because people need to own property. That's how you build wealth. That's the second
Yeah.
thing. So we need a stronger protection of private property rights. And thirdly, let's look at industries that could be performing better. You know, are there industries that could be performing better if we lighten the regulations? Like, for example, electricity generation. I mean, look, our population is growing. The infrastructure cannot support everybody in the country. Can we not allow other people to come in, produce
Yeah.
electricity at obviously the correct safety standards, of course? I'm not just saying that. I'm not talking about Izinyoga, where they'll just go and connect to the
Well,
streets, and then you
some point, guys, I think that's where we're gonna need to be as a country.
But you understand what I mean? Like, maybe that one guy who's got knowledge in engineering can build some sort of power plant, whether if it's green energy or nuclear or whatever, and then he can
Yeah.
supply a community, his own community. Just allow that to come in, so that people can take advantage of that, and more people can come in and benefit, and there will be some millionaires that will become rich
Yeah,
as a result, and therefore
definitely.
the people that want to see more black billionaires, they'll see more of them. So I do believe that that's another aspect of it. So what we need to do is look at the labor regulations, what's keeping people out of jobs, and the second one is, are there any industries that can be deregulated so that people can take advantage of it, get more supply of everything? So that's what I would say. I think the government shouldn't be focusing more on, and now this may sound a bit counterintuitive, but the less the government focuses on race
Yes,
and
sir.
focuses on what works, trust me, they're going to get a lot more black billionaires and millionaires
sir.
than what BEE will promise. That's what I
That
would
is
say.
very true. That is very true, Dumo. I think we share the same sentiments there. So let's get into a section where we have a quote of the day. And our quote today comes from Pete Leroux from Sachelicha. And the quote reads, "The tide of public opinion rather has turned irreversibly against BEE. Business people are not open to it any longer. They want to see more employment and prosperity, not more trend tenderpreneurs. Dumo, I think this speaks perfectly to what we're talking about.
Yes.
I think yes, sorry, carry on.
Oh, no problem. Oh, yeah, I agree. Pete Leroux hit the nail on the head here. There is growing resentment from people who are doing business, and they're going out there. They're really putting in the effort to start a business, and then they see someone who is politically affiliated, just driving a Range Rover and living in an expensive house, like after getting this massive tender from the government. And people lose hope when they see that. Now they say, look at me, I've been struggling, I've been doing this, I've been playing by the rules, but all this guy has to do is be affiliated with the political party, and he's a billionaire or a millionaire. That's unfair. And then what's going to happen eventually in the future, if this carries on, the sentiment will be when people raise their kids, they're going to say, no, you must join the big political party, because that way you'll live a comfortable life. And that is wrong. You can't do that. Because even George Ayiti even said that and I'm paraphrasing him, that a country like that will not succeed, because people will not want to invest in that country, because now everything has to go through the government. But then if they free up the markets, people will become more prosperous. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Dumo, I think we've come to the end of our show. Thank you so much for helping me answer this burning question. Dumo, how do people find you? How do they find you on social media, your podcast?
Oh, yes. There's many ways you can do it. The first way you can find it is on Twitter. You can either follow me on my personal account at Dumo Denga. No spaces in between. And then you can also follow our podcast page, which is at ManPatria_ZA. I repeat, at ManPatria_ZA on Twitter. Or you can go on our website. We've got some really nice material there. The website is www.manpatria.com. I repeat, www.manpatria.com.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put all of that in the description box. Dumo, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And to you at home, remember the show is every 6 p.m. on YouTube, IGTV, and Facebook. Guys, remember, your freedom is worth fighting for.